Hey guys, I'm Nat.
Hey, I'm Toby.
Hi, I'm Jennifer.
Hi, I'm Mary, and this is our Assessment Task 1 group video based on our school experiences.
In secondary school, I experienced cultural and racial assumptions within my VCE accounting class. Around 70% of the students in my class are from Chinese or Korean cultures. At the start of the year, we had a practice test to see how much we knew after doing Year 11 accounting previously. It was evident when looking at the roll of students that the majority of the Asian cultured students performed really well in the test. After teaching for a few weeks, our teacher would double check to make sure we understood the content that was being taught. When I say we, I mean our teacher would always check up on myself and other students who came from a white Australian background. My friend pointed out to me that he couldn't recall the teacher checking up on anyone else other than me and my friends in the back row. Our teacher's attention towards us correlates with sprites from the studies that a teacher's behaviour related towards expectations can affect a pupil's performance. Because our teacher treated us differently and gave us more attention, my friend's grades and myself were improving significantly compared to the other students in our class.
14 years ago, I started Year 7 at a private Catholic school where I was the only person in my year who was not baptised or religious at all. But it wasn't a problem and I wasn't treated differently. And it wasn't just religion. The area in which I went to school had students from completely different social class families who came from various socioeconomic backgrounds. According to Anthony Welch, the term social class broadly refers to the organisation of society into groupings of people who share similar degrees of economic and social power. However, I went to school with some students who came from very poor families and others who were very wealthy. But when we were all at school together, you wouldn't have been able to tell the difference. I started my first day of Year 7 wearing my oldest brother's hand-me-down blazer, but no one cared, and if they did, nobody said anything to me. And there were students who were gay, but it wasn't something that was discussed often. Not to say that everyone got along every day, but I naively believed the broader social issues that are around now were not so present when I was studying. However, now I think possibly the problems we face in schools these days were happening when I was a student, but they were not discussed so openly as they are now. This can be both a positive and a negative. Positives being, from what I took, was students from all different backgrounds coming together to gain an equal education. However, negatively, maybe there were students who felt they couldn't truly express themselves as topics like gender, bullying and race were not discussed so freely as they are now. There is still a long way to go to support students to freely be themselves and to gain equal education with fair opportunity. But with resources such as the Melbourne Declaration and the AIDSL standards, we are on the right track to support a positive change.
The focus of my school experience is targeted towards inequality, as throughout most of high school, teachers in PE appeared to treat the students as two separate groups depending on how physically active or sporty the students were. Teachers in PE could clearly be seen to favour the more physically active students by displaying simple behaviours such as putting them all on the same team or always picking them for certain tasks and activities. In one instance in particular, a student was using a basketball and trying to do tricks with it. One of the PE teachers told the student to stop behaving stupidly. However, when one of the sportier students did the same thing, the teacher laughed and made a joke about it, and then proceeded to ignore it. The favouritism of the more physically active kids by PE teachers could be seen to deter the other students from enjoying and properly participating in class, as it was made to seem that you were looked down upon or disadvantaged in this class unless you were physically active or sportier student.
So throughout my schooling experience, I found that the PE teachers displayed a bit of inequality, as they seemed to favouritism the more sportier students over those who weren't.
It's like at my school, I found the opposite thing. So there was more equality and a lot of kids came together even though they came from different backgrounds, and I didn't really notice a lot of favouritism at my school, so I had a different experience from that.
I am going to discuss the role that gender played within my school experience. Firstly, I'd like to announce that Goal 1 in Melbourne Declaration states that students are provided with schooling that is free from discrimination based on gender, culture, language, socioeconomic background, and many of the topics covered in this video. However, in my experience, this was not demonstrated in terms of a whole school approach. As a child, I enjoyed playing footy, being rough, and was often classed as one of the boys. Many teachers at the school criticised me for not being ladylike, behaving or acting like a girl should. Not only did I play rough, my taste in clothing did not adhere to the school's dress code policy either. I wore the boys' uniform, shorts and t-shirt, pants in winter. Again, I was criticised and sometimes even punished with detention for being out of uniform. I didn't wear dresses or skirts at home or on the weekend, so why was I being forced to here? Why was the school so determined to make me dress, behave, act, and take interest in these stereotypical girly things that I didn't like dolls or the colour pink? Why did they insist I must wear a skirt or dress to school? This transmission of knowledge, passed down from generations, links to a broader societal issue that women and men are to behave and act accordingly to their assigned genders. This transmission includes social structures that contribute to how women and men are represented in the media by gender stereotypes. Using my sociological imagination, I wonder if the teachers at my school were preparing me to fit into my required gender role for the future. Ada and Cameron argue that children begin to develop their gender identity between the ages of 3 and 7, and psychology-based theorist Piaget claimed that children construct knowledge based on their experiences. If children develop their gender identity through observing and imitating, thus being shaped by the people surrounding them, then I pose the question, was the school attempting to mould me into conforming to the stereotypical gender role of a female?
My narrative story will focus and discuss social issues and factors such as how to have an understanding and cultural awareness with different cultures through using a variety of different schooling experiences, as well as observations at school, such as my schooling transition to Australia and how it has influenced throughout my schooling experiences. By using and referencing the virtual school bag, it will create a link in addressing broader societal issues and schooling experiences. Other social issues and factors that will be addressed and explored is a social issue where I observed a student verbally and socially bullied based on a misunderstanding. Furthermore, key concepts and words such as culture, cultural awareness, social, cultural identity, race, and bullying will be explored and highlighted. Throughout my narrative story, I will explain how the key concepts and keywords connects and addresses to the broader societal issues and how it has influenced my schooling experiences. So in my schooling experiences at my virtual school bag, my teachers supported me, but I didn't get to experience and use all of my virtual school backpack.
That's really similar to me, my family background. However, the teachers didn't support me. They sort of criticised me for those things.
This directly links to ATSE students not being able to utilise their virtual school bags when they enter the classroom compared to Westerners, and not being represented within the curriculum. However, ATSL Standards 1.4 and 2.4 and the Melbourne Declaration are attempting to change that within the educational framework by embedding Indigenous culture into mainstream subjects.
Yes, you mentioned the Melbourne Declaration, and in the Melbourne Declaration, it actually states in Goal 1 that the aim is to ensure that socioeconomic disadvantage ceases to be a significant determinant of educational outcomes, which is what I experienced firsthand when I was a student. However, my school was not multicultural at all when I was a student, so it may not have been the case on a national scale.
In contrast to this, my schooling experiences throughout my transition to Australia had a numerous amount of students that came from different countries, which have influenced and shaped how I interacted with other students throughout my schooling experiences. According to ATSL Standard 1.4 for strategies for teaching, teachers need to demonstrate broad knowledge and understanding of the impact of culture, cultural identity, and linguistic background on the education of students from Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders backgrounds, and this is evident in my experience.
Awesome.
Throughout my schooling experience, I found that teachers didn't support ATSL Standard 4, particularly 4.1, which states support student participation. I found that the PE teachers didn't incorporate this as the favouritism made some students feel that they couldn't properly participate in the class. This could be seen as a display of hidden curriculum.
Yeah, in my schooling experience, a lot of the high-paying roles were male-dominated, which sort of relates to gender stereotypes again, which is what I was discussing, and they held like the power within the school.
It's funny you say that because I feel like it was sort of the opposite at my school. Even though there'd be families, that were powerful and were wealthy, but there was no real like power plays at our school. Like you wouldn't be able to tell the kids who came from the poorer families or the wealthier families. We all just kind of came together at school.
Oh yes, it's really different
Yeah,
for